Humans relinquished their seats on the council, and the cosmos shuddered. Their departure was unceremonious, no grand speeches, no theatrical farewells, merely an absence. Admiral Kren Thock stood on Centaur Station's expansive observation deck, his forearms clasped behind him, the auxiliary pair fidgeting with palpable unease. The vacant human embassy loomed in the distance, a stark and desolate presence, akin to a missing tooth in an otherwise flawless smile. 10,000 cycles of cooperation, he murmured, his voice raspy through respiratory filters, concluded in a single council session. Behind him, his aide, a young Felian named Nex, cleared her throat, the sound like delicate chimes in the vast chamber. The Economic Committee reports human trade routes have been entirely severed, Admiral. Their colonies throughout the Orion Arm have gone silent, their communication arrays dismantled, jump gate access codes altered. It's as though they've simply disappeared. Kren snorted, a harsh sound that made Nex flinch. Disappeared? Ha! 300 billion humans don't just vanish, girl. They are plotting something, they always are. The truth was, Kren had anticipated this, not the complete withdrawal, no one had foreseen that, but the escalating human dissatisfaction had been brewing for decades. The decision to deny them access to Proxima technology had evidently been the final affront. What does the council say? Kren Thock inquired, still fixed on the deserted embassy. Nex's fur rippled with blue embarrassment. They are celebrating, sir. High Chancellor Vox Lumina has proclaimed it a day of renewed galactic harmony. Fools, Kren whispered. He turned his considerable frame, obscuring the starlight. The humans were challenging, yes, argumentative, stubborn, but they were also our bulwark. Nex blinked her three eyes in confusion. Bulwark, sir? You are too young to recall the Hive Wars. Kren moved to his console, calling up historical footage. Before the humans joined the council, we were losing systems daily. The RX-4 hives were unstoppable. The screen displayed terrifying scenes of insectoid ships tearing through defense fleets, planetary bombardments turning verdant worlds to ash. Then came the humans, Kren Thock continued, with their rudimentary ships, their peculiar weaponry, and their utterly illogical battle tactics. The footage shifted to smaller, angular vessels swarming against the hive ships. Where council vessels fought in perfect formation, the human ships seemed to engage in controlled chaos. They didn't prevail with technology, they won with, what did they call it? Thinking outside the box. A strange expression, but effective. Nex approached the console, intrigued. But, the hives have been contained for generations, and the humans have been repeatedly denied technological advancements. The council believes. The council, Kren interrupted, believes what is convenient. They see the humans as dangerous children, but I served with them, I fought alongside them. He paused, his voice dropping. And I fear what comes next. A soft alarm chimed, and both aliens turned to the massive display window in perfect synchronicity. The lights of the human embassy began to extinguish, section by section, like a dying organism taking its final breaths. Send a message to my personal contacts in the outer systems, Kren Thock said quietly. Tell them to watch the borders. The humans are gone, but something will fill the vacuum they've left. Nature abhors empty spaces. Nex nodded and hurried away, leaving the Admiral alone with his thoughts and the darkening embassy. You fools, he whispered to the absent council, you've doomed us all. Council response: murder. I will have order in this chamber. High Chancellor Vox Lumina's voice boomed through the Grand Council chamber, her crystalline form reflecting the ambient light in dazzling, angry patterns. The cacophony of voices, ranging from the high-pitched whistles of the 60 delegates to the rumbling bass of the Morgoth representatives, gradually subsided. The human departure is not a crisis, Vox Lumina continued, her tone dripping with artificial confidence. It is an adjustment, one the Council has weathered before. Trade Minister Boral Pax snorted loudly, his snout flaring. Not a crisis? Their withdrawal has crashed markets in 17 sectors. The Relian exchange had to suspend trading. My people's currency has lost 40% of its value in 3 days. Temporary fluctuations, dismissed Ambassador Zealot Tarn of the Plate Confederation, her tentacles waving dismissively. The humans were economic disruptors anyway, always pushing for innovation and market competition, as if 5,000 years of stable trade protocols needed improvement. Kren Thock watched from his seat in the military section, saying nothing. His species, the Vorath, were known for their strategic thinking, not diplomatic niceties. Let them bicker, he thought. Reality would assert itself soon enough. What about defense? The question came from General Ulick, a Tan whose massive bovine form seemed too large for his seat. The human fleets patrolled 30% of our border regions. Who fills that vacuum? Our own forces, obviously, sneered Security Director Krell, the Drad whose scales rippled with contempt. Without humans consuming resources with their wasteful military practices, we can finally implement a properly optimized defense grid. Optimized? Ulick stamped his hoof. Their wasteful practices saved my homeworld during the Hive incursion of 2478. Your optimization algorithm said my planet wasn't worth defending. The chamber erupted again with accusations and counter-accusations flying. Kren Thock caught the eye of his old friend, Science Counselor Maya. The diminutive CIN beckoned him with a subtle finger motion. This is going exactly as you predicted, she whispered when he reached her side, half celebrating, half panicking, and all missing the point. Kren Thock, he replied quietly. Have you checked the long-range scanners? Maya's antennae twitched, a sign of concern among her kind. Yes. Unusual activity in the Perseus Void, where the humans maintained their deepest listening posts. Posts they've now abandoned, Kren added grimly. Their conversation was interrupted by Vox Lumina's amplified voice. The Council will now vote on Resolution 47B, reallocation of former human territories. Kren's upper arms clenched in disgust. They're already dividing the spoils. The humans aren't even gone a week. Maya agreed. From across the chamber, Kren noticed Trade Minister Borelpax watching them with suspicious eyes. The Kesian was known for his political cunning and his absolute loyalty to the Chancellor. We should continue this discussion elsewhere, Kren murmured. I have data you need to see. Meet me at the old observatory, 20th cycle. As the Council descended into squabbling over human territories, resources, and technologies, Kren Thock rose and quietly exited the chamber. None of them understood what humanity's absence truly meant, but they would soon. First signs of trouble. The observatory on Centaur Station's outer ring had been abandoned years ago, replaced by newer facilities with more advanced equipment, perfect for clandestine meetings. Kren Thock arrived early, his breath fogging in the cold air. Life support in this section ran at minimal levels. You weren't followed, came Maya's voice from the shadows. The small CIN emerged, her large eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. I've been evading surveillance since before you hatched, Kren Thock replied with a grunt. Show me what you found. Maya activated a portable data terminal. 3 days ago, automated beacons in the Perseus Void began transmitting unusual readings. Then they started going dark, one by one. The holographic display showed a progressive blackout spreading across the star map. Equipment failure? Kren Thock suggested, though he already knew the answer. That's what Security Director Krell is telling the Council, Maya said, her antennae twitching anxiously. But I accessed the raw data. Look at the final transmission. She magnified the signal patterns. Kren Thock felt his skin temperature drop, a Vorath response to extreme alarm. Energy signatures, massive ones. Moving information, yes, Maya whispered, and not matching any known Council species. Kren studied the patterns. Forward this to Outpost Gamma 9. Commander Rena owes me a favor. She'll confirm without alerting the Council. Already done, Maya said. That's why I asked you here. The outpost went silent this morning. Kren's secondary arms began their nervous tapping, a habit he'd never fully controlled. An entire military outpost? How is this not setting off every alarm in Council space? Because, came a third voice, the alarms have been disabled. Both turned to see Trade Minister Borelpax emerging from behind an old stellar analyzer. The Kesian's fur was standing on end, a sign of extreme distress in his species. Minister, Kren Thock began, reaching for his sidearm. Save it, Admiral, Borel interrupted. If I wanted you detained, security forces would be here instead of me. We have approximately 7 minutes before my absence from the reception is noticed. Maya's eyes narrowed. Why are you here then? Because things are happening that shouldn't be possible, Borel said, joining them at the data terminal. 2 outposts going dark, long-range communications disrupted, and the Council Security Office ordering the suppression of this information. Kren Thock spat the name. Yes, but he's not working alone. Borel's ears flattened against his skull. There's more. I received this from one of my trade vessels near the border. It's why I followed you. He connected his personal device to Maya's terminal. A grainy video feed appeared, obviously recorded in haste. A Kesian captain was speaking urgently. Don't know what they are, massive ships, at least 2 dozen, they're not responding to hails on any frequency, they've disabled our engines with some kind of wave, they're boarding, security teams to all airlocks, they're cutting through the, oh gods, they move so fast, they're not, they can't be. The feed dissolved into static. Silence hung heavy in the observatory. When Kren Thock finally asked, when? 6 hours ago, Borel replied. That ship had 400 of my people aboard, and the Council knows nothing of this. Maya asked, her voice barely audible, the Council knows nothing of this? The Council knows only what it is told, Borel said bitterly, and right now, Security Director Krell is telling them that border disruptions are minor technical issues being resolved. Meanwhile, Chancellor Vox Lumina is focusing everyone's attention on redistributing human territories. Kren Thock stared at the static-filled screen. We need more information, hard evidence that even Krell can't dismiss. I have a network of trading vessels, Borel offered, not military, but equipped with decent sensors. I can redirect several to gather data. Risky, Maya noted. If whatever that was attacks them. My people are already dying, Borel said simply. Better to know why. Kren nodded grimly. I have contacts among the military commanders of several species, ones who might act without waiting for Council approval. And I can access the deep archives, Maya added. If these energy signatures have been encountered before, there might be records. A soft alarm chimed on Borel's device. My absence will be noticed soon. We need to separate. As they prepared to leave, Kren Thock caught Borel's arm. Why help us, Minister? You've always been the Chancellor's loyalist. The Kesian's eyes reflected the dim starlight. My grandsire served with humans during the Hive Wars. He always said, the day the humans leave is the day we should start worrying. I never understood until now. After Borel departed, Kren Thock turned to Maya. We have 3 days at most before whatever this is becomes impossible to hide. And then. The Admiral's expression darkened. Then we'll wish the humans were still here. Growing threat. The Proxima Gate has fallen. 5 simple words that silenced the emergency session of the Council's Military Advisory Committee. Admiral Kren Thock stood before them, his posture rigid, all 4 of his arms hanging motionless at his sides. Impossible, breathed General Ulick, his massive tan frame suddenly seeming smaller. Proxima has a defense fleet of 300 vessels, planetary shields, orbital batteries. It's the most fortified system in that sector. It had those things, Kren corrected. He activated the central display. The footage was chaotic, emergency lighting, warning klaxons, panicking bridge crew. The view from a battlecruiser's command center. This transmission reached us via quantum relay 12 hours ago, Kren explained. It's the last communication from Admiral Zenel's flagship. The committee watched in stunned silence as massive silhouettes appeared against the blackness of space, angular, as geometric shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Energy beams lanced out, cutting through Proxima's defense fleet as if they were made of vapor. By the eternal void, whispered Commander Pella, a Solarian whose luminescent skin had dimmed to a dull gray. Those ships, what are they? 10 kilometers long? 20? The largest is estimated at 37 kilometers in length, Kren Thock replied. For comparison, our largest dreadnought is 3 kilometers. The footage continued. Proxima's orbital defenses opened fire with everything they had. The massive enemy vessels barely registered the impacts. Wait, Ulick leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Those defense patterns, those aren't standard Council military formations. Those are human designs, Kren finished. Proxima was one of the border systems where we kept human military advisors, even after restricting their technologies. Admiral Zenel had incorporated many of their tactical innovations. For all the good it did them, muttered Security Director Krell from his corner of the room. The Drad had been unusually quiet during the briefing. These recordings prove my point. We need to consolidate our forces around core worlds, not waste them on border skirmishes. Skirmishes? Boral Pax exploded, slamming his fist on the table. Proxima had a population of 11 billion. 3 of my largest trade hubs were there. Krell corrected with the same cold inflection Kren Thock had used earlier. Casualties are regrettable, but... Enough, Kren cut him off. This isn't a border skirmish, it's an invasion, and it's spreading faster than we can track. He manipulated the display, showing a map of Council space. Red markers appeared across the outer systems, then began creeping inward. These are confirmed attacks. These yellow markers bloomed like a disease or systems we've lost contact with. How many systems lost? Asked Commander Pella. 17 confirmed, possibly 36 more. A heavy silence fell across the room. We need to inform the full Council, Boral finally said. Rally combined fleets, evacuate border worlds. The Chancellor has concerns about causing a panic, Krell said carefully. The Chancellor isn't seeing this footage? Boral shouted. She is, actually, Kren Thock's voice cut through the argument. I presented it to her privately before this meeting. And? General Ulick prompted. And she has convened an emergency session. The full Council will meet in 3 hours. Kren Thock's secondary arms began their nervous tapping. She's also ordered the immediate formation of a unified defense fleet. That's something at least, Boral muttered. There's more, Kren Thock continued, his voice dropping. I've been ordered to reach out to all available military assets. All assets? A shudder rippled through the room. You don't mean... Commander Pella began. Yes, Kren confirmed. I'm being sent to find the humans. He turned off the display, the images of destruction vanishing but remaining burned in everyone's memory. If they'll still talk to us. Desperate measures. Unified Fleet Gamma has been destroyed. Complete loss. No survivors detected. The tactical officer's voice was flat, emotionless, the result of too many similar reports in too short a time. Chancellor Vox Lumina's crystalline form dulled, absorbing rather than reflecting the light of the command center. That's the 3rd fleet this week, she said quietly. How many ships? 712, Chancellor, including the dreadnought Eternal Vigilance. Someone gasped. The Eternal Vigilance had been the pride of the combined Council forces, constructed over 20 years at enormous expense. Time from engagement to defeat, asked Security Director Krell. 17 minutes, sir. Krell's scales rippled, a rare display of genuine emotion from the Drad. 17 minutes. Our finest ships, our best commanders, our most advanced weapons, our conventional tactics aren't working. General Ulick stated bluntly, these invaders, the Void Geometric, as the troops are calling them, they seem to anticipate our every move. Because our tactics haven't changed in 1,000 years, Maya Jix muttered loud enough to be heard. The CIN scientist had been brought into the War Council after her early warnings proved accurate. We're predictable, efficient, logical, and dying. Added Boral Pax, the Kesian trade minister now served as evacuation coordinator, a role that aged him daily as refugee ships were intercepted and destroyed. Chancellor Vox Lumina turned to the center of the room, where a holographic display showed the current state of Council space. Red dominated the outer regions, yellow crept steadily inward, and the shrinking blue core represented their remaining safe territory. Project Sunforge, she asked, her voice carrying a desperate edge. A Morgoth weapon specialist stepped forward, his deep voice rumbling through the chamber. The prototype failed spectacularly, Chancellor. The energy requirements exceeded our calculations. 3 research stations were vaporized in the backlash. The planetary shield network ineffective, replied Commander Pella. The void geometrics simply target the generator nodes with precision strikes. The barriers collapse within minutes. The massive evacuations. Boral's ears drooped. We're losing more ships than we're saving. Civilian vessels are too slow, too vulnerable. The refugee centers on remaining worlds are already past capacity. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. Council space, stable for millennia, had been reduced by 60% in less than a month. What about Admiral Kren Thock? Vox Lumina finally asked. Any word from his mission? Krell snorted derisively. Nothing. The humans have abandoned us, Chancellor, just as I warned they would. We abandoned them first, Maya reminded him sharply, after they saved us from the hives, after they shared their innovations. We treated them like children, denied them technologies, restricted their expansion. That's quite enough, Science Counselor, Vox Lumina interrupted. What's done is done. We must focus on the present crisis. The present crisis exists because of what's done, Maya pressed, her antennae rigid with anger. The humans guarded the Perseus void for a reason. They warned us something was out there. We ignored them. The argument was interrupted by a young aide rushing into the chamber, protocol forgotten in an urgency. Chancellor, new contacts detected at the edge of the Arcturus system. The room froze. Arcturus was nearly 2 jumps from their current location. Void geometric? Vox Lumina asked, her voice barely audible. In unknown configuration, Chancellor. But they're coming in fast. Hundreds of them. Smaller than the void ships, but... A priority alert sounded, cutting off the aid. All eyes turned to the main display, where a new message flashed. Incoming transmission. Origin, unregistered fleet. Authentication, Admiral Kren Thock. Priority, absolute. Put it through, Vox Lumina ordered, a flicker of hope crossing her features for the first time in weeks. Seeking the humans, this is a fool's errand, muttered Navigator Trelva, her phosphorescent tendrils twisting with anxiety. The 3 weeks of blind jumps into uncharted space were lost. Admiral Kren Thock stood on the bridge of the diplomatic vessel Hand of Peace, staring at the unfamiliar star patterns on the main view screen. His crew, a hastily assembled mix of military personnel and diplomats, was exhausted and increasingly pessimistic. The humans left marker buoys, Kren Thock insisted, though his own confidence was wearing thin. Quantum linked to their old embassy. The signal is faint, but it's there. If they wanted to be found, they would have made it easier, objected Ambassador Zelatarn. The Pleiadian had opposed the mission from the start, but her expertise in human culture had made her inclusion necessary. This feels like following breadcrumbs into a predator's den. An apt metaphor, Kren Thock agreed, surprising her, but when the alternative is certain destruction, one chooses the uncertain path. Reports from Council space had grown increasingly dire with each quantum transmission. 30 more systems lost, the combined fleets shattered, Centaur Station itself, the heart of galactic governance, now evacuated as the void geometric closed in. New signal detected, announced the sensor officer suddenly. Definitely artificial. Definitely not ours. Kren Thock moved to the console, hope kindling. Origin? Bearing? 227 Mark 43. Strong quantum signature. It's broadcasting on an old human emergency frequency. On screen, Kren Thock ordered. The view screen shifted to show a small metallic object floating against the backdrop of a swirling nebula. Unremarkable except for the stylized eagle emblazoned clearly visible on its side. A human probe, breathed Zelatarn. But it's ancient, pre-council design. Set course, Kren Thock commanded. Approach with caution. As they neared the probe, it suddenly activated, a soft blue light scanning their vessel from bow to stern. "We're being scanned," reported the tactical officer nervously. "Should I raise shields?" "No," Kren Thock said firmly. "We come in peace. Let them see that." The scanner light disappeared, and the probe went dark. For long moments, nothing happened. "Perhaps it's defunct," suggested Trelva. Then the probe spoke in perfect council standard. "Voreth vessel identified. Admiral Kren Thock recognized. State your purpose." All eyes turned to Kren Thock, whose secondary arms had gone completely still, a sign of extreme focus among his kind. "This is Admiral Kren Thock of the Galactic Council. I seek audience with the human leadership on a matter of extreme urgency. The Council faces extinction." Silence stretched for what seemed like eternity. "Transmitting coordinates," the probe said then. "Follow precisely. Deviation will be considered hostile." A string of navigational data flowed across their computers. The probe flared briefly, then vanished in a flash of light. Did it just teleport?" asked Trelva incredulously. "Impossible," muttered the science officer. "The energy requirements would be..." "Set course for the transmitted coordinates," Kren Thock interrupted. "Maximum speed." Admiral Zelatarn approached, her voice lowered. "This could be a trap. The humans have good reason to despise us after their treatment by the Council." Kren Thock nodded. "It could be. But I knew many humans during the Hive Wars. They could be vengeful, yes, but they never abandoned those who genuinely needed help, even enemies." "And if you're wrong," pressed Zelatarn. "Then we die here instead of in Council space," he replied simply. "But we found them, Ambassador. That was the hard part." The ship's engines hummed as they accelerated toward the coordinates, a nondescript star system that appeared on no Council charts. "One way or another," Kren Thock said quietly, "we're about to discover what humanity has become in our absence." The return. The wormhole tore open reality like paper, a swirling vortex of impossible physics that made Navigator Trelva physically recoil from her instruments. "By the void," she whispered, "that's not possible. Our scientists proved stable wormholes couldn't exist." Kren Thock watched as the massive human vessel emerged. It defied conventional design principles, asymmetrical with sweeping curves interspersed with sharp angles, almost organic in appearance. No visible weapons, no obvious propulsion systems, yet it dwarfed the hand of peace like a predator looming over prey. "Open communications," Kren Thock ordered, his voice steadier than he felt. Before his crew could comply, view screens throughout the ship activated simultaneously. A human face appeared, female, brown-skinned, with silver